All right, so an Alternox build was talked about, and this is going to be my response to it. The Alternox is not that bad of a weapon. It has a reputation of being a bit of a meme, but it does have some shining points to it. So I'm going to talk about that right now. The main thing about the Alternox, the main plus to it is that this weapon has innate infinite body punch through. So what does that mean? Soft body targets, actual enemies, do not stop this weapon from going through to the next enemy. Now, doors, walls, obstacles, or something like that, this weapon is still affected by punch through. So, saying like a shred would definitely be beneficial on this weapon. But there's some small interactions that you can take advantage of. But you need to think of this weapon for its primary fire as more of a cone, almost like the Ignis or like the Archiplasmor, because everything that you shoot in a line is essentially going to get hit. It does have a little bit of travel time, but it's super fast. So let's talk about the build. Now, the build that I'm going to be using and the one I'm going to be recommending is essentially this one. Galvanized Aptitude, pretty standard nowadays. Arcane Merciless for reload and base damage. Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot, pretty standard. This is going to be a 100 munitions build. Crit chance, crit damage. Your flex slot on this is Vigilante Armaments. If you want to put another Forma into it, and you want the punch through, Prime Shred would go here. But I am going to be running Arcane Acceleration. And the main point of this is to take advantage of a small interaction. It's not a big one. But if you look at the on-hit damage, not the AoE of the alt fire, a single 60-60 mod, and let me show you. Double procs. It combines with the innate element and then adds itself, because on these weapons, like with the Mutilus Cernos, the weapon with innate electricity, where the Mutilus Cernos has toxin, this will combine with the toxin like an impact mod will affect like the impact portion itself. But because it's an element, it will increase the damage and then combine also. So it's showing the bonus together. But it combines and it also shows the bonus. But it procs two elements at the same time. So it's a little bit of a help, not a big help. But we're going to be taking advantage of this as much as we can. But with 160-60 Toxin mod, this allows us to deal pure corrosive. And we're going to be shooting Grenier. So being pure corrosive, we will get maximum effect from their weakness to corrosive. There's no splitting up due to IPS, because on this weapon, the IPS is on the alt fire. So your main fire gets to take full advantage of what the enemy is weak against, and in this case it's going to be Grenier, so they're weak against corrosive for ferrite armor. So it will be getting 100 pennies on the dollar of that plus 75 weakness that they have. So we're going to use that to boost the damage of this weapon. So even though the crit chance of this weapon is 14%, we're still going to mod for crit and take advantage of the crit multiplier, which is decent. It's not fantastic, but it's a 2.2, so it's definitely on the slightly higher end. And the fact that the weapon gains additional multi-shot when being wielded by Gyre for this build, which is helpful because it's our weapon. So the build's pretty self-explanatory. The only interesting interaction is Malignant on the alt fire. I'm going to use it anyway just to RNG some additional statuses and to get any chance of IPS, because even with 160-60, it's 105% status chance. So every time you alt fire, you are going to be proccing a status. And then the radial is a different status group. So we're going to take advantage of this. The AoE is pretty nice at 6. I mean, that's pretty decent. It's not stellar when you have things like the Brahma and the Tsar running around and the Ogress. But you'll see the interaction. All right, let's grab some Merciless stacks. And I'm only using 124% power strength. I didn't want to overwhelm it. Let's wait for that to go away in a second. Alright, there we go. Alright, 9 Merciless stacks. We're going to fire in a line. There we go. That line's done. And you're going to use this to group, or to shoot into groups of enemies in a line. That's where its main multiplier comes in hand. But there you go. Nice and simple. Just keep in mind when this weapon was made, it was designed for like on the Zerman. So like it would be a little weaker on like open world tile sets. So like around Cetus and Fortuna. And some of the larger corpus tile sets. But in the Zeraman, you're dealing with a lot of like pathways where enemies are like forced into a line. So this weapon actually does pay dividends a little bit. Because think about like all the tunnels and like running from room to room, like you have all those bottlenecks and everything. You're going to be hitting 2-3 enemies at a time with this weapon most of the time. So it's kind of the philosophy behind this. But anyway, pretty basic. The only thing I can say if you're trying to copy this build is Vigilante Armaments is the flex slot. If you don't have Arcane Acceleration or you really, really want the Shred, I get it. Shred's pretty boss on the right weapon. Shred would go here, and you would use the rest of the build. You can also take advantage of the really, really high status. Ditch the crit damage altogether and go with like a corrosive build with a really, really high heat. Though the fact is that sort of build is a little bit more ineffective on primaries because primed heated charges on a pistol. Because you really need that modded damage. So just food for thought. You could use this for a pretty nasty magnetic build. Though obviously against Corpus you would lose the bonus when killing health. But food for thought. This weapon's effective. It's obviously going to need help scaling if you're doing like a cascade run though. But there you go. Here's the build. Take it easy, guys.